We are extremely disappointed at the callous indifference displayed by Jonathan Blodgett with respect to the timing of his announcement. I'm sure that you are all aware that tomorrow is the first anniversary of the death of Kenneth Howe. The District Attorney's Office has had 1 year to come up with their findings that they announced yesterday, and they picked this week to do so. We find that insensitive and disingenuous. Mr. Blodgett told you what didn't happen on November 25th, 2009 into the early morning of November 26th, 2009. But he didn't tell you what happened. We intend to do that when we're before a jury on January 9th, 2012. We are looking forward to that day to get real justice for the Howe family. The last time I checked, ladies and gentlemen, any individual that is going to be placed under arrest for a misdemeanor or a felony or any suspicious activity, the punishment at the very greatest is imprisonment and not death. We would welcome Mr. Howe being alive today and defending any felony or misdemeanor charge that any police officer that night saw fit to institute. At this time, I'll take questions from any of you.
Is it possible for Margaret to tell us how the family's doing?
Of course. Would you like to, Margaret?
We're not doing really good, especially the news that we got yesterday, the day before his death, is we still need answers. Still doing, but we're not doing all that good.
What did you think of the news conference that he held?
That's how I found out from a newspaper what the not charges was being brought to for everybody.
But what he was saying, what were you thinking when he was saying, you know, this is, despite what the medical examiner ruled, this is not a homicide?
Well, if I could comment, first of all, no one from Mr. Blodgett's office contacted me to let me know that he was making this announcement. I find that outrageous. That's just simple courtesy. So we all found out by the news media. Margaret was contacted that someone saw on Monday night's 5 o'clock news that he was going to announce his findings. That's inexcusable, no matter what the findings are. With respect to the medical examiner's report, let me just tell you, Mr. Blodgett, that I have a Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's report here for changing of death certificates, which, as you all may recall, initially it was pending the cause of death. The cause of death, Mr. Blodgett, is a blunt impact of head and torso with compression of chest. Here it is. Now, I'll say no more because we are involved in our civil litigation. We also just received the documents of the result of his investigation yesterday, and we haven't had a chance to go through all of them. But let me just say that it is our opinion again that Mr. Blodgett did a methodical investigation of Kenneth Howe's life, and we will do the same regarding the circumstances of his death. Any other questions?
Were you at all surprised, though, considering where he's coming from?
Jack, I wasn't surprised at all. I think you may recall when we filed our complaint, the air of indifference with respect to Mr. Blodgett's office was crystal clear. No one has ever talked to me. I've been referred to an assistant attorney general. Gerald Shea has never returned any of my calls. And as our discovery has been proceeding, we were made aware that no grand jury was ever convened. So knowing the process as I do, the results were not surprising. It's the way it came down and just the insensitivity to this particular week.
You know, the DA went into detail regarding the oxycodone, marijuana. I mean, can you respond to that? People hear that and
Certainly,
they think, well,
certainly. My response is the one it was in January. Any criminal history that Mr. Howe may have, any contraband that he may have had that night, is irrelevant to what happened. How does that justify the actions of the police? Mr. Howe was 5'5" and 163 pounds. Now, I have the actual weights and heights of the police officers because they told me under oath at their depositions. But all you need to do is take a look at the pictures, and you'll see that most of them are well into 200 pounds. And 10 or 12 are required to subdue a 5'5", 163 pound individual. He must have been the strongest man alive.
Does Mr. Blodgett's finding in any way change your strategy in your civil rights lawsuit?
Not at all. We've been uncovering our own evidence. His investigation, I think I've been pretty blunt and clear, was meaningless to me, and it hasn't changed our strategy at all. And as I say, we've uncovered much different facts than he reiterated to you yesterday.
Margaret, can you comment again about the reaction of your family yesterday, Margaret, to the findings?
It was just a big shock to us because I figured he will either call my lawyer or at least get a hold of me to let me know that he's going to release a press. And I didn't find that out through Channel 5 News when I was watching the morning news.
How are you planning to spend tomorrow?
He was a good cook. He will want us to sit and eat a turkey. Like yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Friday, we're having to get together at the cemetery for his 1-year anniversary. And it's just sad.
How are the kids doing?
We do as much as we can, you know.
Dakota just couldn't face
Right.
all of you today. She's 11 years old. You may recall her in January. I mean, there are children here, Mr. Blodgett. Could have waited until next week. Anything else?
Do you still want the U.S. Attorney to investigate this?
Absolutely.
Do you know if they have been?
I do not.
Do you think it's possible for the district attorney to improperly investigate state troopers and local police?
Yes, I've said right along that state police, investing state police is ridiculous and improper. High-ranking police officers not associated with his office, well, they're state police officers. So we're hoping the Department of Justice takes a look at this. We're proceeding with our civil lawsuit, and we are discovering a great deal of evidence, and we will get justice on January 9th, 2012, before 12 people.
Has the U.S. Attorney said they will not investigate this?
I have not spoken to the U.S. Attorney's office.
You haven't contacted them?
Not recently, no.
So you have no idea whether they're going to proceed or refuse to?
It was my understanding, as a matter of course, when there is a death involving an allegation of a civil rights deprivation, that the Department of Justice will open up a file. That's my understanding. I don't have any personal knowledge of that. But as I said in January, although I was always skeptical, and my skepticism has proved correct, you know, Jonathan Blodgett deserved an opportunity to do the right thing. And he just didn't do his job. He told us all what didn't happen, but he didn't tell us what happened. And his strategy from the very beginning, in my opinion, was to defend the police officers and not to find the truth of what happened.
According to Mr. Blodgett, all of the 70 witnesses, including the 2 people who were in the car at the time, said they did not see Mr. Howe being beaten by the police. Is that your information? Is that your understanding as well?
I believe that is the case.
You believe what is the case?
I believe that the 2 individuals in the car, although I haven't seen Mr. Barbour's statement, but I do believe that Mr. Garbarskis, who was so frightened that he didn't know what was happening, did not see any police officers strike Mr. Howe. That's my understanding.
Do you believe that they did not strike Mr. Howe? Or that
Well,
they did?
the only way anyone could believe that somebody didn't strike Mr. Howe is if you want to believe that Mr. Howe, with his hands and legs bound, administered the blunt impact himself that caused his death. And that appears to be an impossibility.
But what they're advancing is that, of course, the police injured him, but they did so while making a lawful arrest. That's their contention.
Well, we understand what their contention is. And our contention is that Mr. Howe was the victim of excessive force. And it's not my contention, it's the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's contention that Mr. Howe's cause of death was a blunt impact of the head and torso with compression of chest. Now, that's the medical examiner's cause of death.
I understand that, but the contention yesterday was that the police did not beat, strike, kick, or use a baton or other instrument to injure him. That doesn't mean he couldn't be injured another way, but do you believe the part that the police did not beat, strike, or kick, or use an instrument on Mr. Howe?
No, we are uncovering evidence to the contrary as the litigation proceeds.
Any chance of getting a copy of that?
The
Medical examiner's report?
this was the change in the death certificate because the original death certificate had a pending determination. I think you have this, but absolutely I'll make copies of this for everyone. Anything else?
You can't get into what your evidence is showing because of the lawsuit?
I cannot.
You said January 9, 2012, so you fully expect to take this to trial?
Absolutely.
Do you believe, point blank, this is a cover-up?
I can't comment on that at this time. I think I've been very candid and open because I think this is a moral outrage. And when I feel comfortable answering your question, trust me, I will.
Can you comment on Mr. Howe's medical condition according to...
Mr. Howe was healthy. Within 8 to 10 minutes before his death, he had just left the Stop and Shop, and we have a video of this. He had just purchased his Thanksgiving Day groceries. He's walking out of the Stop and Shop. He was fine. He was smoking marijuana. And if that's a reason to be killed by the police, ladies and gentlemen, then we've got a big problem here in this country. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.